morning, everybody. I'm here in Birmingham, a city this morning that is swarming with delegates for the Conservative Party conference, media, police and protesters. Later on, there's going to be a march this afternoon. There's going to be a bin Brexit march. There'll be a Leave Means Leave rally going on later in Birmingham too. And the Tory party are heading for, I think, a fairly fractious few days. Now, remember last year's conference, things did not go exactly to plan, particularly given they're a party in government, because during the Prime Minister's speech, out of the crowd came a prankster.
While our opponents flirt with a foreign policy of neutrality and prepare for a run on the ground. Some people say we've spent too much time talking about Jeremy Corbyn's past. You may not have heard me say that. So some people say we've spent too much time talking about Jeremy Corbyn's past.
And what was clear about that? I mean, two things. Firstly, how does a comedian get into the Conservative Party conference, and how the hell is he able to walk straight up to the Prime Minister with a P45? I mean, just imagine if that had been somebody whose intent was not to have a laugh and a joke with the message, Boris sent me to give you your P45. So from a security perspective, I found that absolutely, totally and utterly extraordinary. And then, up until that point, and let's remember this, up until that point, the Prime Minister had seemed fairly relaxed. As you could hear from that clip, she just did not know how to handle that difficult situation. And then, of course, she started coughing.
10 years after Northern Rock, our economy is back on track. The deficit is back to pre-crisis levels. Sounds as if my voice isn't on track. Let this party celebrate the wealth creators, the risk takers, the innovators and entrepreneurs. I hope you noticed that, ladies and gentlemen, the Chancellor giving something away free. Will oversee the biggest expansion in training for doctors and nurses. and we shows what good the Chancellor's cough suite is. Rock. Our economy.
Well, on a personal level, you can feel sorry for anybody in a situation like this. You know, we've all been there, haven't we? And we sneeze at the wrong moment or whatever it may be. And that was awkward. But what was interesting was she wasn't coughing before the comedian came out to hand her P45. She clearly was knocked very, very off course by it, didn't know quite how to cope with it. Not somebody Theresa May experienced at sort of, public meetings and big events where the unexpected happens, used to a very scripted formula. And then after the coughing fit, worst of all, the sign, the slogan up on the wall, one by one, the letters started crashing down. It was just extraordinary. And I was thinking myself about all the UKIP conferences I've been to. The first one in 1993, in the middle of the national anthem, the UKIP sign fell over. I mean, it was just cringe-makingly embarrassing. And I was determined thereafter. I was party chairman for many years, and of course I was leader for a decade. And when I was leader, I'd say the week before, right, have we got this done? Have we got that done? Not because I wanted to micromanage it. I wanted to make sure that people knew what their responsibilities were, and we didn't have disasters like that. It's not difficult. It's about appointing the right people. It's actually a very important aspect, it seems to me, of leadership. Now, after that catastrophe of a conference last year, there is, of course, a new party chairman. Brandon Lewis is the party chairman, and it was all going to be different this time, including the launching of a new telephone app that anybody could get into, where you could follow the party conference. And yesterday, it ended in disaster. Tory fury as party faces huge fine for disgraceful data breach. So what has happened is there was no proper password protection for the app, and you could just sign in as Boris Johnson and download all of Boris Johnson's personal details. So not just Boris, but many of the senior members of the cabinet have had their own personal data compromised. I mean, it is an absolute farce, isn't it? That it was all going to be better, and it started off shockingly. Mrs May arrived in Birmingham last night and obviously being asked a lot of questions about the sheer management and competence of the party. And I sort of wonder whether we shouldn't start off and let's discuss the Tory party, let's discuss Brexit, let's discuss her Chequers policy, let's discuss the divisions that exist within the party. But I wonder, are they actually fit to govern? Are they able to govern? Because if you've got chaos at 2 consecutive party conferences, but equally, if you've got a war of words, which is now reaching the level where, overnight, in an interview in the Sunday Times, Boris Johnson has described aspects of Mrs May's Chequers plan as being deranged. I mean, this is very, very strong language. And Theresa May hitting back again in an interview in the Sunday Times, and she's basically saying that the other side should stop playing politics with Brexit. Well, I don't know, Mrs May, I thought Brexit was actually all about politics. But she's really implying in this interview that it's the patriotic duty of Conservative MPs to back her vision. So whichever way you look at this, I wonder, are they actually fit to govern? What does John in Formby think? Good morning, John.
Absolutely not.
No. What? Because of sheer incompetence, John, or lack of policy unity? What are the reasons?
Oh, well, a bit of everything, I think. No one knows what they stand for, really, and the leadership is appalling. I think the big problem in politics, and indeed many areas nowadays, is we live in the era of low talent. And what we have to do is find a leader who can get the best out of what we've got.
But you say low talent, John. I mean, it isn't actually very difficult, is it, to employ some people to put a slogan up on a wall at a party conference that doesn't fall off? It isn't that difficult to find somebody to set up a telephone app that isn't accessible to all and sundry. These things aren't difficult, really, are they?
No, but like I say, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And I think when we're faced with the horror of a fascist left government like Corbyn, we have to really do the best we can with what we've got. But
right, so is what you're saying then, the Tories aren't fit to govern, but the other lot are even less fit to govern? Is that your view?
Exactly. It's the lesser of two evils. But I've got a slogan
go on.
to undermine Theresa May. A lot of people seem to compare her to a cat for some reason, like Kenneth Clark and a kitten heels, and we were told that after the election she was like a wounded cat licking her wounds. And in negotiations with the EU, she's a pussy.
Right.
So my slogan would be, ditch the pussy and get a Rees Mogg in place.
Right. Well, it's not bad, I suppose. But, John, when someone like you who follows this stuff, and we've spoken several times before, you care about politics and current affairs, and when you're saying, well, one party are hopeless, but the other lot are even more hopeless, perhaps even dangerous, it's not a very inspiring message to get the people out voting, is it?
Well, in a curious way, I think actually it is, really.
I'm not so sure.
I don't think we can attain the golden spires just yet, but what we can avoid is an absolute disaster.
Well, I see voter turnout going down, and I think your analysis is part of that reason. John, I thank you. Heading to Portsmouth to speak to Jeff. Jeff, are they fit to govern the country if they can't even run a conference properly?
No. I don't think that Boris Johnson will ever make a good Prime Minister because he missed his opportunity in 2016.
Well, he had another opportunity, Jeff, I would put to you, in July of this year. When he resigned after the Chequers deal, he had the Commons speech. It was the big moment. The summer was coming up. If he could have got the support and forced a leadership contest, we'd have had a new Tory leader by the 1st of September. So he's missed two big moments, really, hasn't he?
Yeah. The one in 2016, immediately after the yes vote, the leave vote, the whole country for the whole weekend was leaderless. He should have been on LBC. He should have been all over the media.
He was playing cricket, Jeff.
Well, he had to play cricket, crikey.
I mean,
what can a gentleman do?
Well, cricket is important, but I agree with you. There were other priorities. He didn't get his ducks in a row. He didn't even ring Andrea Leadsom in time to stop her putting in a bid. He made an absolute fluff of it. They're a mess, Jeff, aren't they?
Oh. Well, if you're going to let civil servants run our attempted Brexit, what can you expect?
Jeff, I'm coming to that later on this morning. Thank you very much indeed for your call. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC, and it's 10:15.
This is LBC.
Exclusively in The Telegraph, read all about what's got everyone talking. Boris Johnson's plan for Brexit. The former Foreign Secretary writes exclusively for The Telegraph, revealing his plan for how Britain could move towards a deal following Chequers. Boris's plan for Brexit. Exclusive to The Telegraph. Read it now at telegraph.co.uk/Boris. The Telegraph. Words are powerful. Choose them well.
Stuff stacking up? Store it with B&Q. The new Zargo 68-litre heavy-duty storage box is just £10. Zargo boxes are ideal for an autumn tidy-up, and 1 hour click and collect makes your job even easier. So for brilliant storage products at everyday low prices, you can do it when you B&Q it.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, and eyes and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
You already get your eyes and teeth checked. Why leave out your ears? They're just as important. So, if you've noticed a change in your hearing recently, come and see how well you're hearing for free at Boots. Boots. Let's feel good. 1 free hearing check per year, over 18s only.
Meet the team behind the ever-flourishing Jude's Ice Cream. There's James, Alex and Chow, the MDs.
Hi.
Zoe, the chief churner.
Hi.
Steve, the dairy farmer.
Hello.
A herd of cows, obviously. The refrigerating unit controllers.
Hello.
And Ivan.
Hi.
He's the relationship manager from Lloyds Bank, who, by working together with the business, arranged the finance that helped increase their freezer capacity and expected annual turnover by 30%. Lloyds Bank, by the side of business. All lending is subject to status.
Universal Credit is opening up work for thousands of people across the country. It provides support for people out of work or who start on a low income and comes with your own work coach to provide help and advice. Universal Credit can top up your wages and payments won't stop just because you work more than 16 hours. So it can open up lots more job opportunities and makes temporary or part-time work a great place to start. Universal Credit. Opening up work. Find out more at gov.uk/openingupwork.
I'm Dr. Michael Mosley, creator of the world-famous 5-2 diet, the plan that's helped so many people lose weight. Free inside this Sunday's Mail on Sunday, I'm launching my easiest 5-2 diet ever. With just 5 ingredients per recipe, so it couldn't be simpler to help you lose weight. It may also boost your brain power and reduce the risk of breast cancer.
Dr. Michael Mosley's all-new 5-ingredient 5-2 diet. Exclusively in this Sunday's Mail on Sunday.
As a cattle farmer, calving season means long days. So when my head hits the pillow, I don't want nightmares about losing calves.
Vodafone helps farmers rest and work more efficiently with our market-leading Internet of Things network and Moo Call, a device that sends alerts when a calf is on its way. Search Vodafone Business Solutions to discover how we're so much more than mobile. Vodafone. The future is exciting. Ready? Subject to area availability, minimum terms apply. Details at vodafone.co.uk. Business Solutions.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
As the Tories gather in Birmingham for their conference, it's basically now open warfare between Boris Johnson and Theresa May. Boris saying that parts of her Chequers plan are deluded. I mean, you can't actually be much ruder than that, can you, about your own Prime Minister and her proposals. He's almost more full-on than Michael Heseltine was against Margaret Thatcher 30 years ago. But when you add to that this massive security breach, which, by the way, the Conservative Party could be fined up to £2 million for, that all the delegates that are registered, including cabinet ministers and figures like Boris, all of that was open access on the Conservative Party conference app yesterday. There is a feeling of total, sheer incompetence about the whole thing. And, of course, last year, comedians walking up to the Prime Minister and everything. Bob says on Facebook, I think the Tory Party conferences are always full of comedians. Well, they certainly were last year. Sandra thinks we have leaders who live in a bubble, Nigel, not used to being with the public. Well, that certainly showed with Theresa May last year. You know, if she'd been used to doing big public street hustings and having things shouted at her and maybe even thrown at her, she might have dealt with the whole situation better. I wonder, are they fit and able to govern the country? Is this all actually about leadership? And I think to some extent it is. I do believe, and it's true, of course, that the fish rots from the head down. I think all the while she's in charge, far from the strong and stable image they tried to portray over a year ago, it's going to be a shambles. Tell me I'm wrong. 03456060973. Catherine by text says, I agree this PM is weak at making a hash of Brexit, but please don't go running away with the idea that somehow a hard-left socialist, practically Marxist government under Corbyn would be any better, nor would they deliver Brexit any more effectively. Catherine, I do take the points you're making, but whilst there was disagreement at the Labour Party conference between the Keir Starmers of this world and John McDonnell about, you know, if they were to go for a second referendum, would the Remain option be there? Wouldn't it be there? And whilst it was clear there was a big drift at that conference towards a much more pro-Remain position, they managed to disagree without falling into open, personal, hostile, warfare. And I think Labour's problem isn't so much within the activists or within the political party. Labour's problem is out there in the country where there are 5 million Labour Brexit voters. That's where their problem is. But they gave the impression of a party that was relatively united. They put some new ideas on the table, including 10% of private companies of a certain size, 10% of their equity would be given to the workers. Now, I call it theft, but hey, as an idea, it appears to have caught the country. And it's very difficult. And I'm not praising, Catherine, and I'm not praising Labour's economic policies, but it's quite, at least they had some messages coming out from their conference. Quite difficult to see what's going to come out of this Conservative conference, other than half of them hate the other half. Peter is calling from Enfield. Peter, good morning to you.
Good morning, Nigel. Nice to speak to you again.
Nice to speak to you again. So are they fit to govern, Peter?
Well, clearly, as the Brexit fiasco has rolled out, they're not. They don't seem to know which way they're going. It's a permanent punch-up, for want of a better phrase, between themselves. Well, if they can't sort themselves out, how the hell are they going to get the country back on the rails? And the country is off the rails.
No, I agree. They can't sort themselves out. They can't stop rowing in public. And they can't even do the basics like organise a conference. And it seems her default position with Brexit is to say to David Davis and people like that who'd spent 2 years working on it, well, your opinion, David, is basically valueless. I'm going to go with the civil service. She's not getting this right at any level. So what's to be done, Peter?
Well, God help us from the civil service, but that's another whole other subject.
I agree with that.
The problem that the country has, in my opinion, for what it's worth, is we are stuck between the rock and the hard place. On the one hand, we've got a bunch of bungling incompetents who clearly haven't got the faintest idea how to manage the situation. And on the other hand, we've got a bunch of fully fledged racist thugs. And that's a hell of a choice for the country.
Racist thugs. Peter, racist thugs is a bit strong, isn't it?
Ask some of the Jews then.
Well, there may have been elements within the Labour Party who have behaved appallingly. Mr. Corbyn, who spent too much time with very, very bad people. But that's really how you feel about them, is it?
Exactly. I wouldn't vote for them no matter what. The problem with that is that it falls by default to a bunch of half-wits. And where the hell are we supposed to go to get the country with some form of leadership to take us forward? So we're at a crucial point in the UK's history with Brexit coming up. And we're looking at, well, I've got to tone it down because it really winds me up, but we are going nowhere. The country is falling down all over the place.
It's a mess. No, it is a mess.
Utter lack of leadership.
Well, Peter, the chance to get rid of her was there in July. We're told there wasn't enough support, but if Boris Johnson had used his resignation speech to say we need a different Prime Minister, it might just have happened. And for Boris now to be posing as the leader, what happens if they get rid of her now? With the timetable, there'd be no time to negotiate Brexit. So it isn't just her, Peter, making a mess of it. I thank you for your passion and for your call. Chris says the Tories can govern the country, but not with this Prime Minister. She'll never be Margaret Thatcher's successor because she's too weak. The country needs someone like Mogg. He's strong. Well, Mogg certainly has strong views and he sticks by them, which I think in many ways, whether they agree with those views, particularly on social issues, people like. What's gone wrong with the Tory party is that the Liberals have infiltrated it. People like Clark and Soubry. Well, Kenneth Clark's hardly infiltrated the Conservative Party. He's been in it since about 1960. And so I don't think he is a recent interloper. Martin says Boris may have missed 2 chances, hopefully third time. Well, Boris is only 54. And we are living through great events. So you can't write him off. That is absolutely true. And he did write a very good piece in the Daily Telegraph. I might not have agreed with all of it, but I think it was a good piece. It was well argued. He's a very likeable person. And he did very well, didn't he, in London? Winning the Mayor of London, holding it. I mean, all of that's very impressive. But I do think in terms of and not just for his own career, I think for the country, he should have gone for it back in July. That's how I feel. Seamus is calling from Wallington. Good morning, Seamus.
Morning, Nigel. I'm really, really disappointed by Theresa May. I'm a lifelong Tory. I'm very much a Thatcher fan.
Yep.
And what we've got at the moment is we've wasted 2 years to be convinced that hard Brexit, soft Brexit. Well, none of us voted for anything other than Brexit. Why have we had this debate to try and water down what it is we're going to get or not get?
Well, could it be, Seamus, because we have a Remainer as Prime Minister, who still simply cannot bring herself to say that she believes in Brexit. And I mean, this is why Boris has said what he said in the Sunday Times and said it in no uncertain terms. I'll read it to you. Unlike the Prime Minister, I campaigned for Brexit. Unlike the Prime Minister, I fought for this. I believe in this. Isn't perhaps the problem that she never believed in it?
We're not taken seriously by Europe because we're negotiating with an open hand of friendship against snarling dogs who have absolutely no interest in giving us any form of a decent deal at all. And what we need is we need a Thatcher banging the table, looking people in the eye and telling them what the consequences are of messing this country about.
The only issue I would take with you, Seamus, and where you and I would disagree, is you say we're not being taken seriously in Europe. I would say we're not being taken seriously in the world. I don't think anyone is looking at the United Kingdom at the moment with any sense of respect, and particularly some of those who queued up wanting trade deals to be told, oh, it'll be years and years and years before we can do that. Seamus, a Conservative who is very, very disenchanted indeed. Sean says on Facebook, the Tory party are a complete shambles at the moment, but they're still preferable to Labour. Well, that was sort of echoing really what John said, the first telephone call we took, that the Tories are hopeless, they're not fit to govern, the other lot are even worse and dangerous. Sounds to me like a lot of people, if it stayed like this, a lot of people would stay at home rather than going down to the local primary school. That's what I think. Maybe Joy from South Croydon will tell me that I'm wrong. Good morning, Joy.
Good morning to you. Do you know why there's such a mess? Do you know why everything's in a muddle? Do you know why the public are all up in arms because we don't know what's happening? They should have appointed Nigel Farage right at the beginning as an advisor to the government. You've had 25 years experience of being in the EU. You know how to deal with these people, and you're the man who should have advised the government.
Well, Joy,
what does the government know, really, about negotiating with the EU? None of them.
Joy, I thank you for your confidence in me. And let me just tell you that I did make it absolutely clear, post the referendum, that I would want to help in any way at all. And I was told I wasn't wanted. I even went 6 months after that, Joy, and met the now President of the United States, not 72 hours after he'd been elected. And I said, if they wanted any help in cementing relations with the new administration, I'd be there to help in the national interest, and they didn't want me. Thing is, Joy, their own petty, tribal, personal politics means they wouldn't have anything to do with me. And the truth is, Joy, that really the Conservative Party is still in the hands of Remainers, isn't it?
It is, and that's the saddest thing of all.
Yeah.
And I think for my grandchildren and the future generation, it really is a worry what's going to happen.
Well, Joy, don't worry. Look, even though we're 2 years, 3 months on from that referendum, and it's a complete shambles, there's no question about that. And even if we get a very weak Brexit and not the one we voted for, do you know, in the end, Joy, for your grandchildren's generation, we will sort this out and we will win, because whatever gets thrown at us by the establishment, whatever financial threats they give us, the truth of it is, in the end, public opinion is as firm, if not firmer, than it ever was. Joy, thank you for your call and your confidence in me. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It is now 10:30 and time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
As Conservatives gather for their party's conference in Birmingham, Theresa May says those who are against her Brexit proposals should stop playing politics with the UK's future. In a newspaper interview, her former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson's described part of the Chequers blueprint as deranged. Indonesia's president is visiting the scene of a powerful earthquake and tsunami that's devastated part of the island of Sulawesi, leaving more than 830 people dead. Rescuers are still looking for victims trapped in the rubble of collapsed buildings. An investigation started after a man was stabbed on a tube train on the London Underground. It happened on the Central Line just before 1 o'clock this morning. LBC weather, sunny spells, showers and strong winds in Scotland spreading into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the north of England today. Drier though elsewhere, a high of 15 degrees.
This is LBC.
I'm Dr. Michael Mosley, creator of the world-famous 5-2 diet, the plan that's helped so many people lose weight. Free inside this Sunday's Mail on Sunday, I'm launching my easiest 5-2 diet ever. With just 5 ingredients per recipe, so it couldn't be simpler to help you lose weight. It may also boost your brain power and reduce the risk of breast cancer.
Dr. Michael Mosley's all-new 5-ingredient 5-2 diet. Exclusively in this Sunday's Mail on Sunday.
Hit the bullseye this October by becoming a sober hero and take a month-long break from the booze to raise money for Macmillan Cancer Support. No darting to the bar, no doubles. Just wake up happily hangover-free. Gain maximum respect and know that you'll be helping to change the lives of people with cancer. It's all in a month's work for a sober hero. So go sober for October and sign up today at gosober.org.uk. Game on!
The PTA Car Booters. Volunteers teaching Gran about computers. Local heroes coaching kids in sport. Charity champions collecting for causes they support.
PayPal lets charities and not-for-profit groups raise funds online and in person. Adding a donate button to your website is easy. And our contactless card reader lets you collect more than coins, with no recurring monthly fees, just a fee per transaction. Search PayPal for charities and fundraise in more ways. Terms and cost of card reader apply.
The Volkswagen Caddy from just £179 per month on contract hire now comes with 2 free services. So instead of spending your money on this, you could spend it on this. Or even this. Incredible offers to help your business thrive. Search Volkswagen Caddy to find out more. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles. Working with you. Business users only, excluding VAT at 20%, over 36 months, £537 initial rental. T's and C's apply. No ownership. Until the 30th of September 2018. Volkswagen Finance.
Did you know that Godzilla is an official citizen of Japan? Or that Singaporeans are the fastest walkers on the planet? And that in Hong Kong, you can get married at McDonald's. But here's the most amazing thing to know. You can discover Asia from just £379 return with Lufthansa's attractive fares. Book by October 2nd for travel starting from October 23rd. For more offers and full terms and conditions, visit lufthansa.com or speak to your travel agency.
Say yes to the world. Lufthansa.
Nothing to see here. Just a regular retriever eating his food, doing his thing while you're out doing yours. Not raiding the bin. And no little surprises left on the floor. What a good boy. Nothing to see here means nothing to worry about. With the Hive View smart indoor camera, check on your home from your phone, wherever you are, and join over 1 million people using Hive products. Search Hive to discover more. Hive. Let's get living. Hive services require broadband and Wi-Fi. Terms apply.
The Furniture Village sale has everything to complete your home in time for Christmas. Impress guests with extending dining sets and comfortable sofa beds. And with a huge range of sofas, beds, dining tables, and all our famous brands, there's only one place to go to complete your home in one. The Furniture Village sale. In-store and online now.
Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
Here in Birmingham, security breaches, a party civil war, Boris Johnson saying parts of the Prime Minister's plan are deranged, and the conference hasn't even started yet. Before I get back to, are this Conservative Party fit to govern, a very interesting election is taking place today. A referendum is taking place today in Macedonia. Macedonia, formerly part of Yugoslavia. And the referendum today is on whether they should change their name, because the northern region of Greece is called Macedonia, and the Greeks are absolutely opposed to Macedonia being an independent state, albeit outside of their territory, but as they see it, having a territorial claim, whether it's true or not, on part of their country. So the referendum is on whether to call it Northern Macedonia. If they change the name to Northern Macedonia, they'll be able to join the European Union. They'll be able to join NATO. And, of course, Mrs. Merkel has been in the last few weeks. The Austrian Chancellor Kurz has been in the last few weeks. Positive noises, of course, coming out of the Foreign Office, Alan Duncan, people like that. And there is a big campaign aimed particularly at the youth, saying, vote for a European future. On the other side of the argument, Russia are pretty worried about this, just as they were in a similar debate that took place with the Ukraine. Russia not wanting NATO and the European Union encroaching ever further eastwards. And interestingly, the president of Macedonia is saying that actually what we're doing here is historical suicide. And it's interesting. You know, lots of countries like Macedonia, but I mean, you know, there are others like Croatia. I mean, for 800 years, there was a campaign for an independent Croat state, and now they've joined the European Union. You could argue they've lost that independence. The question is, will they get a vote that says, yes, we change the name? Will they get a 50% turnout with people like their own president leading a boycott? So you see, the European Union, the European debate has the ability to split politics wherever we go. Are this lot fit to govern? Is Theresa May fit to be Prime Minister? Just one thought on this. I mean, Boris keeps on attacking Chequers, keeps on attacking the Prime Minister in stronger and stronger tones, whilst at the same time saying, of course, I support the Prime Minister, and nobody actually believes it. And you do, almost, because he hasn't got the courage to say she should go, you almost in some ways, and I think we'll see this in Birmingham this week, I think there'll be quite a sensible sized chunk of the Tory party will actually, on a human level, begin to sympathise with Mrs. May a lot more than they do with Boris Johnson. Come on, Boris, if you want to be the leader, why not just say so? Because at the moment, you're not fooling any of us. Suggestion I get by text: why don't you invite David Cameron onto your show? He was a Remainer and did the honourable thing and stood down, as it was not the job for a Remainer to lead Britain out of the European Union. I don't think, MB, who sent that message, that I'm necessarily top of the pops in the Cameron household, so we'll put that idea on hold just for the moment. I'm going to go to Preston in Lancashire and speak to Philip. Philip, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel.
So, Are they fit to lead us? What needs to happen?
Well, I don't think so. Absolutely not. But I personally think Theresa May and the majority of the Conservative Party are geniuses.
Geniuses, explain.
I think they're doing as purposefully a bad job as possible, so the people of Great Britain don't get exactly what they voted for in the referendum.
Oh, Philip, come on, that's a conspiracy theory.
Well, it is, and my main point is she's done it before in the general election. She did such an appalling campaign. She even started trying to go against the core vote and taking away pensions off elderly people. I genuinely think that what they've done is brilliant. I think it's a big colluded plan by the Conservative Party to do such a bad job so the people don't get what they want. Brilliant.
Well, in a way, okay, let me sort of think that through. What I suppose, isn't it interesting, because Mrs May says Chequers delivers the Brexit people voted for when clearly it didn't, when clearly, this is not whether you supported Brexit or not back in 2016, but clearly there are elements of Chequers that are a complete betrayal of what people thought they were voting for, those at least on the Leave side, in 2016. But if you, from Preston, can see that she's deliberately watering the whole thing down, there must be many why do more in the Conservative Party itself, the parliamentary party, Philip, not come to that conclusion?
Well, I think the Brexiteers are a minority, and I think there is a little bit of a power shift going on. I do think there are genuine people, the MAGA Knights, whatever you want to call them, that really do want it. But to be honest with you, the vast majority of Parliament don't want Brexit, and I think it's a big, really brilliantly schemed plan. Call it a conspiracy, but
all right,
I think it's fantastically orchestrated, and I don't think whatever us people, as you call us, the little people, they will never, ever, ever give us what we want. I said before Brexit, we had one foot in Europe. After Brexit, they won't give us what we want. We'll have one foot out of Europe, and that's the way I think it is. I'm furious.
Well, Philip, I promise you, the battle for us to be an independent country is not going to be stopped by Mrs May, whether through sheer incompetence or whether, in your view, a deliberate plan. But it's not going to be stopped. This campaign will not stop until we get independence. I thank you very much indeed, Philip, for your call. Shane says, Mog for PM, May out. Pauline says, Chequers is dead. May is not giving us the Brexit the 17.4 million voted for. Elizabeth says, I don't think anyone is fit to govern the country at the moment. And I think, Elizabeth, there's quite a lot of people saying that. And I'm really worried. I'm worried about our faith and belief in the whole democratic system. I'd be particularly worried about that if a second referendum was called. I think millions would say, what the hell's the point of any of it? But some do have sympathy with May. Brexit is the only political game in town. The country is divided, which makes it virtually ungovernable. I'm no big fan of May, but no leader could run this country at the moment. It's an impossible job. Maybe running the country is tough, but she can't even run her own party conference, and that's really the point, that there is actually an element here of competence. They look pretty useless to me, and the new party chairman, Brandon Lewis, has hardly got off to a flying start. Marcus in Stirling is calling. Am I being too harsh, Marcus?
No, for a change, Nigel, you're not being harsh enough.
Oh, right, okay.
We're at a stage in the game now where no matter, you've heard the saying, no matter who you vote for, the government always gets it. I'm sure you've heard that before.
I sure have,
Now, we're at a stage now where foreign investors, the mainstream media and the civil service are running our country. Now, if Brexit doesn't happen, it will be somewhat akin to us voting for Party A, and we don't know what we're voting for. It goes through the courts, we'll go through referendum and get Party B. Can you imagine if we hit the powers that be where it hurts, and that being the wallet? Can you imagine if so many Brexiteers like me and the 17.4 million all said, I'm sorry, I've played by your rules, I'm not going to pay my council tax. I'm going to hold you to the same ransom that you have held me. Can you imagine how that would go down?
Well, you're talking, Marcus, about law breaking on a massive scale, which, of course, is wrong in lots and lots of ways. But I wonder if people like you, Marcus, were that determined that you were going to break the law and say the devil take the hindmost, how many people do you think would join you?
Well, let's look at the last time there was a huge U-turn during the poll tax. Now, whether we both think that was a good idea or a bad idea, you remember the poll tax?
I do, Marcus, and I remember. I remember the violence in Trafalgar Square.
Let's not condone violence. I'm not going down that road. I'm just talking about a peaceful protest that everybody can do, because it will reach that point in the road, won't it? This is a tug of war. And you're talking about dirty tricks. Now, if you said you haven't seen any dirty tricks on the Remain side, then for once I'd be calling you out for not being truthful.
Marcus, I've seen lots of dirty tricks, of course I have.
There's been dirty tricks, but let's just theoretically then point to this. People get to a stage in the roads, even if they vote for Labour, they get Tory. If they vote for Tory, they get Labour. If they vote for Brexit, they get Remain. Where is it going to end? I'm suggesting if people did something peaceful, the ransom note would turn around from us and the power would go back to the people.
If enough people were to contemplate this action, it would certainly not go unnoticed. Marcus, I understand what you're saying. And interestingly, he talked about the poll tax, the poll tax protesters behaving as they did and getting their way. The Countryside Alliance, people turning up in Hyde Park or marching and not even leaving a single sweet wrapper behind, got nothing. But I'd hate to think that's what we had to sink to get change. I still don't think we need to break the law. I still don't think we need to riot. I still think we can democratically ultimately get our way, even if we are in a very sorry state right now. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's 10:45.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, LBC.
More than a quarter of people killed in car accidents last year were not wearing a seatbelt. Phil in Guildford.
It gives you a false sense of security. You don't pay as much attention.
I don't think that when I put on my seatbelt. I just think I'm going around the M25 and I fancy living. Beset by Brexit woes and a seeming crippling lack of direction, the Conservatives head to Birmingham for their annual conference, and I'll be there. Interviews with Prime Minister Theresa May, Chancellor Philip Hammond, and a special Ring Rees-Mogg from the conference hall with Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, weekday mornings from 7, LBC.
Join Clive Bull every Sunday evening from 6 for the Consumer Hour on LBC.
Joe in Bromley says if you're doing a hotel booking, it's made online, but there's an error found when checking in at the hotel. Which organisation is responsible?
So your claim there lies with who you booked with, so it's the booking company. However, if you are out there, I would talk to the hotel directly.
The Consumer Hour on LBC with Which. Impartial advice, investigations and reviews. Keep questioning.
I start with an O. I end with a Y. I'm the second biggest preventable cause of cancer. What am I? The answer at the end of this ad break.
The Furniture Village sale has everything to complete your home in time for Christmas. Impress guests with extending dining sets and comfortable sofa beds. And with a huge range of sofas, beds, dining tables, and all our famous brands, there's only one place to go to complete your home in one. The Furniture Village sale. In-store and online now.
Whoever they want to be in life, give them a great start with WellKid. Carefully balanced, great-tasting vitamins and minerals for 4 to 12-year-olds, with specific nutrients such as zinc and vitamin D, which support normal immune system function. The WellKid range from Vitabiotics, from Boots, pharmacies and vitabiotics.com.
I'm a great white shark and I'm come to eat your car.
Oh no, please don't eat me.
I'm come to get you.
Invest time playing with the kids, as Money Farm is here to look after your other life investments. From pensions to ISAs and more, we offer investment advice and manage everything on your behalf. You only need 10 minutes to get set up. You have one life. Invest wisely. Moneyfarm.com. Your capital is at risk. Money Farm is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
The Volkswagen Transporter from just £239 per month on contract hire now comes with 2 free services. So instead of spending your money on this, you could spend it on this. Or even this. Incredible offers to help your business thrive. Search Volkswagen Transporter to find out more. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles. Working with you. Business users only, excluding VAT at 20%, over 36 months. £717 initial rental. T's and C's apply. No ownership. Until the 30th of September 2018. Volkswagen Finance.
Dieselgate. The deadline for our lawyers at SPG Law to file your VW, Audi, Skoda or Seat emissions claims is October 26, 2018. Go to claimagainstVW.com to learn more. No win, no fee. It's that easy with SPG Law. That's claimagainstVW.com before October 26th.
The last thing you need in London is more stuff. The London Storage Vaults are in an underground vault near Oxford Circus. It's self-storage that's convenient, climate-controlled and completely safe. Ideal for everything from sports equipment, stock, furniture or artwork, with free collection from Zones 1 and 2. There's 24/7 access and prices start from just £10 a week.
London Storage Vaults, the future of self-storage. Visit londonstoragevaults.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you guess what the biggest preventable cause of cancer is after smoking? The answer is obesity. Search Cancer Research UK Obesity for the facts.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
They can't run a conference, so how the hell can they run the country? Brexit has been a mess and they're all at each other's throats. Nigel, I think the new party manifestos are being prepared as we speak. The real concern is another election. Leslie says, infighting in the Tory party, deselection of moderate Labour MPs by communists. I cry at the state of our parliament. June wants John Redwood as a caretaker leader. I've heard others saying David Davis should be a caretaker leader. Julie has a proper go at me here. She says, Nigel, you're magnificent. How on earth have you managed to get people to vote Brexit and then call in to blame the current mess we're in on May and not on you and themselves? Well, Julie, this is not the Brexit I voted for. I didn't vote to spend 9 months triggering Article 50. I didn't vote for any transition period beyond the end of Article 50. I certainly would never have given away £39 billion, which we appear to be on the brink of doing, and I certainly wouldn't have gone down the Chequers route. And I think actually, you know, for 20 years, Julie, for 20 years, people in Brussels have said to me, if you want to leave the European Union and have a sensible free trade deal, we'll do it with you. That is the route we should have pursued from day one, with the threat that if they won't be grown up, we'll walk away. But that threat has never been there. But maybe, in a few minutes' time, at top of the hour, we will talk a little bit about Chequers and what's to be done. And we're 8 minutes away from Rory McIlroy teeing off in the Ryder Cup. Some thoughts on that coming too. But for the meanwhile, are the Tory party fit to govern the country? One caller has suggested they're deliberately betraying Brexit. Sean is a new caller from Lewisham. Good morning, Sean.
Hi, Nigel.
So what do you think about this government? Are they fit?
No. And why is... I think Boris is a coward. Why has he not got rid of Theresa May yet? I mean, I thought they were the Brexiteers. I thought they're the people that was going to take us out of the EU. And Boris and Jacob Rees-Mogg and all that. I think they've just been cowards.
Well,
I'm really disappointed.
I've got a message here, Sean, from Ian, who texts me to say people are fed up with Boris hovering around May, constantly hectoring without plunging the knife. He's fast running out of time. So, Sean, others agreeing with you. Sean, to me, I've said it before, I'll say it again quickly, the resignation speech, he stood down after Chequers, and quite right too, although he did accept the Irish backstop a few months before, so he's not been utterly consistent, but he stood down after Chequers. He should have gone for it, Sean, in the House of Commons in July in his resignation speech, shouldn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, you must speak to him. I thought you were kind of mates with Boris. I thought you'd be able to persuade him to do something, because at the minute, I think they're just holding back, and I think they're too scared to do anything. I don't know why. No one's getting rid of her.
I would say this to you, Sean. I like Boris, but he's not always the most decisive person on earth, is all I can say.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and that's where we are. I mean, would you like him, Sean? Would you like him to be Tory party leader?
Yeah. I think at least he'd have he'd know what he wants to do. Whereas Theresa May, I think she's a coward herself. She's not doing anything.
Well, her heart's not in it, Sean. She doesn't believe in it. And I agree with you. At least Boris has something of a plan to deliver Brexit, which is more, frankly, than this Prime Minister has got, despite all of her protestations. Thank you. Tim is calling from Evesham. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Nigel. Nice to speak to you.
Good to speak to you.
I've been a Tory voter all my life. I wonder, looking back, thinking about Heath and Major and Heddletine, but there we are. I've always wanted Brexit. I never voted to go in. I think the big mistake was made after the Brexit vote. Parliament, 3/4 of a Parliament against Brexit. We should have had a committee led by a Brexiteer, and they should have conducted the negotiations.
Wouldn't it have been better, Tim? Wouldn't it have been useful if in delivering Brexit they'd put together a cross-party committee and had people on it who weren't just politicians but maybe some business people?
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah. And to have some... I mean, I'd love to have seen some serious business figures getting involved in this. People who are used to big negotiations, people who are used to pressure, used to deadlines. Instead, we have a Prime Minister who appears to be being run by Ollie Robbins and the civil service.
Exactly. I'm ashamed the way that they treated you, the party, and particularly Cameron. He's made himself look a very small man in not accepting help from you.
Well, I was more than prepared to help in any way I could, Tim, and, with that or with the American relationship. But Tim, I'm afraid we are stuck in a form of politics in this country, and a lot of it's got to do with the electoral system, but it's just petty tribalism, and I'm afraid that's what it's all about. So, Tim, what would you... I mean, you're obviously very disenchanted. What would you now like to see happen?
I would like to see a change of leadership immediately. Even if it prolongs matters, I would like to see Boris, who I think has got the charisma in the country. People follow him wherever he goes.
Yep.
My favourite would be Rees-Mogg. I think he's a genuine, honest man who answers questions directly.
OK, no, well, I'll tell you what, Tim, like or dislike Jacob Rees-Mogg or his opinions, he didn't run away, did he, from issues like gay marriage or abortion when Piers Morgan questioned him. Tim, I thank you very much indeed for your call. Chris says it's tragic. Just when we need UKIP, they go and become obsessed with Muslims. Well, I'm sure the party leader Gerard Batten will give a different take on that, but I think there is a general impression that UKIP, perhaps Brexit's not their biggest priority at this moment in time. That's what some think. Nick is a new caller from Putney. Nick, good morning to you.
Good morning, Nigel.
So, are they in as big a mess as many of my callers this morning think?
Well, I think the real problem is that Theresa May was not elected. She was coronated, in effect.
Yes.
And until that problem is solved, the Tory party will be in disarray. So if Theresa May wants to solve that problem, she should call a leadership contest and stand against whoever the challenger is.
What, rather like John Major did back in the mid-90s when John Redwood stood? Yeah. Well,
exactly.
But you could argue, Nick, and the circumstances of her originally getting in, there wasn't a contest, you're right, but she did fight a general election, didn't she? Yes, but oh dear, that didn't go too well, did it?
No, indeed it didn't. But, I think the coronation sort of took place well before the general election. And then, a lot of things were muddled in that context of the general election. So I really think that until the leadership in the Tory party is resolved in a very clear and unambiguous manner, then we will muddle along.
Well,
we won't get.
She's got her speech, Nick. She's got her speech on. She's got her speech on Wednesday, and Nick from Putney, Prime Minister, is urging you to say, "Put up or shut up." Boris, put up or shut up. Nick, you may be right. It may be the only way she can possibly deal with this. I've got time for one last quick caller. Steve, a new caller from Surbiton. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Nigel. I think what most people have been saying about Boris Johnson is right. He is indecisive, but to be fair, some people work better as a team. If Jacob Rees-Mogg and Boris Johnson were to club heads together, I think that would make it a lot more palatable for everybody. That way we've got Johnson's charisma and Mogg's constitution.
Yeah, I think Boris is not a great team player either. He does things very much on his own. But I think, Steve, what you're seeing, and it's pretty clear, isn't it, that Boris goes out ahead, he writes the articles in the Telegraph, he does the interviews, and Jacob comes in supporting him fully. And frankly, I don't think you can put a cigarette paper right now between Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Jacob clearly is supporting Boris, I would say.
So why don't they just club together then, and Boris will say, all right, then you help me be leader, I'll make you deputy?
Well, who knows what private conversations are happening, Steve, but the real issue is, why are they both publicly, in fact, all of them, David, all of them, why are they being so loyal to a leader who they say is betraying the country over Brexit? I mean, it is actually somewhat bizarre, isn't it?
There's something sinister going on there.
Very odd.
What I thought I observed a little bit when Jacob Rees-Mogg first became popular was that he kind of engaged in an act of self-sabotage. And also Johnson, I mean, when you think, he stopped being mayor, then he became an MP because he was widely tipped to be leader.
I know. Well,
he
still may be.
To the thing where he wins the referendum, Steve, and then he walks away.
Steve, odd times. Thank you very much for your call. So, she's got her big speech coming up next Wednesday. She's under pressure to chuck Chequers. Boris Johnson calls some of those plans deranged. Is it time that actually she recognised that Chequers is never, ever going to work? If she chucks Chequers, would that make her a stronger or a weaker leader? And if you think chucking Chequers shows she actually understands it, it'll strengthen her. Call 0345 6060 973. Maybe you think it's impossible to chuck Chequers. She staked her reputation on it, in which case text to 84850. And any other bright ideas gratefully received, you can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. I think she's got to chuck Chequers. If she does, she'll unite the country.
On your radio, on your phone, and here.
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, as Conservatives gather for their party's conference in Birmingham, Theresa May says those who are against her Brexit proposals should stop playing politics with the UK's future. In a newspaper interview, her former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson's described one part of the Chequers blueprint as deranged. But Tory party chairman Brandon Lewis has told LBC it is the only way forward.
There is no new ideas out there. The policy ideas that are out there for leaving the European Union that deliver for our country are in the white paper. It's the deal that the Prime Minister is negotiating with the European Union. I think when that comes back to Parliament, parliamentarians will back that deal that is good for the United Kingdom.
Indonesia's president is visiting the scene of a powerful earthquake and tsunami that's devastated part of the island of Sulawesi, leaving more than 830 people dead. Rescuers are still looking for victims trapped in the rubble of collapsed buildings. Jan Gefland from the Indonesian Red Cross has told us the government will most likely need international help.
We expect that decision to come in the near future, in the next few days. As of right now, the government has not asked for international assistance, and so that's something that we all have to respect. We're in the fortunate situation that we work through the Indonesian Red Cross, so we're able to funnel some things here.
A murder investigation started in Dorset after a man died on a farm. The 25-year-old suffered serious injuries near Blandford on Friday night. 2 men have been arrested. 2 people have been arrested over a suspected hit-and-run in Greater Manchester that left an 81-year-old man in a life-threatening condition in hospital. Police were called to a collision between a motorbike and pedestrian in Clayton on Wednesday. The Health and Social Care Secretary has asked medical experts to draw up guidelines for the amount of time young people spend on social media. Matt Hancock's expressed concern at the negative impact it can have on mental health. And broadcaster Alan Titchmarsh is leading 600 free men and women of the City of London this morning as they take up their historic entitlement to drive their sheep over London Bridge. It's an ancient tradition going back several centuries. He's told LBC it's an important ritual.
When I go walking, I always walk with a crook. But I've never actually had sheep in front of me, so this is definitely a first. It's just a way of making sure that people are reminded of the importance still to this country of wool.
LBC weather, sunny spells, showers and strong winds in Scotland spreading into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the north of England through the day. Drier though elsewhere, a high of 15 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
Stuff stacking up?
Store it with B&Q. The new Zargo 68-litre heavy-duty storage box is just £10. Zargo boxes are ideal for an autumn tidy-up, and 1 hour click and collect makes your job even easier. So for brilliant storage products at everyday low prices, you can do it when you B&Q it.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
The position of our Prime Minister, ever since that Chequers summit, when she stunned her own cabinet by putting on the table a proposal, not the one drafted by Brexit Secretary David Davis, but the one drafted by the Civil Service, and she's still today defending Chequers. She's still saying that it's the only credible plan. She's still saying it's the only way to keep the United Kingdom united and together. And yet, it's been rejected in Brussels. It's been rejected by Boris, who resigned, by David Davis, who resigned, and other junior ministers who resigned too. And in the country, it just doesn't have any support. It hovers around about 10% of people think Chequers is the right way forward. So it looks like a very, very doomed plan. What does a Prime Minister do who has committed herself to that course of action? Well, one possible approach is she sticks with it and perhaps brings down the entire Brexit process. Perhaps cannot get it through the House of Commons. We finish up with a general election, maybe a Corbyn government, I don't know. Or is it a sign of strength or weakness that sometimes a leader changes their mind? Because my contention is, if she chucks Chequers and says, OK, we've had enough of all of this, we've had enough of being given the runaround by these increasingly arrogant, rude, vile bureaucrats in Brussels, we are now going to pursue a Canada Plus type deal. We're going to go for free trade. The very thing that actually the people of this country thought they were signing up to 45 years ago. We're going to go for a free trade deal. We know the voices of German industry and French industry are now speaking out strongly in favour of this proposal. We know there's a track record going back for years, because we've asked Nigel, he's been there for 20 years, and we know that actually this option has always been there on the table. And we're going to go for that. On Northern Ireland, hey, if we have free trade, there'll be no tariff. Ireland actually is not part of the Schengen zone, so we don't see a great risk of people smuggling going on. And there really is no great problem and absolutely no need for a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. And we're going to take this one last big generous offer to the European Union, and we're going to tell them, make your mind up or we're leaving on WTO rules. What are the advantages of doing that? Number one, it delivers the Brexit people voted for. Number two, people keep asking, how are the Tories going to reach out to Labour voters? Well, I tell you how, there's 5 million of them that voted for Brexit. And a British Prime Minister saying, we're going to do the patriotic thing, we're going to become independent, and we're going to get tough on immigration and reduce the numbers coming into Britain. If that was all done, I think she'd do incredibly well with Labour voters. Yes, there are many other issues out there. Housing, people are worried about. Health, people are worried. I understand that completely. But, you know, for many of those 5 million Labour voters, they want Brexit delivered. They're not getting a clear signal from the Tories, and least of all, one for their own party. I think she would unite the country around her. I think that strategy would command majority support in the nation. So what are the problems? Why won't she do it? Well, one, of course, there is her own personal political views. She still clearly very much remain. Secondly, the party, well, overnight, you know, another one, Dominic Grieve, former Attorney General, now coming out for a second referendum, which they try to brand as the people's vote, but it's not. It's a second referendum. So she would face considerable opposition, maybe a dozen, maybe 50, maybe 20 MPs in her own party would not support this position. But I think the country would. And if a proposal like this was voted down by the House of Commons, then an emergency general election would see her win it comfortably. That is my view. I'm not saying that she will do it. I think she should do it. I think chucking Chequers and going for a Canada deal would make her a stronger leader. Tell me what you think. Tell me I'm right on 0345 6060 973. Tell me I'm wrong by texting to 84850, by tweeting to Farage and LBC at LBC, and of course you can comment on Facebook too and watch us there as well. Phil is calling from Cobham. Good morning, Phil.
Morning, Nigel. Well, I'm going to tell you you're wrong.
Right, go on.
You've never bought in, and Brexit has never bought into what the whole European Union is all about, and that's the issue here. I mean, for starts, you used those adjectives: arrogant, rude, and vile of Brussels bureaucrats. Well, quite frankly, Nigel, you could use that. Labour Party members would use those adjectives of Conservative Party members, and vice versa, and of bureaucrats within Britain as well. This is the big joke, and this is the irony, Nigel, of your thinking. You actually would get on better as a party, of UKIP, with your so-called allies in Europe, who, by definition, you can't actually get on with, because, if you're a far right side of the UK, you talk the same language as the far right side of Germany, if you like, but ultimately you cannot get on because one is totally for Germany and one is totally
No, Phil. You completely misunderstand this, don't you? The fact. I don't. Phil, you completely misunderstand it. If you live in a street, right, your first priority will be to your family, right? But that doesn't mean you can't work with your next-door neighbours. That doesn't mean you can't be on the committee of the local residents' association. That doesn't mean...
And in many respects...
Well, of course it is.
You're absolutely right. That shows how weak your logic is, because your neighbour could be starving, but, I only look after my family. So you look after your family.
So your logic, Phil, is... Phil, that you go joint account at the local bank with the neighbours, do you?
The whole point, Nigel, is you're trying to build in a world with such, division. If you cannot see how similar, really, the cultural ties of Europe are, and how important it is for us to stay together.
No, I can't. Phil, I have Phil, I can't, because we have common law. They have a different legal system entirely. We have our links and associations through language and history around the world in a way that no other European country does. I'm not saying, Phil, we can't be friends with our European neighbours, but we're not the same, are we?
One thing, you go on about the bullies of Europe.
Yeah.
The bullies, I hear this
thugs, gangsters. Yeah.
Right, now you keep on going about your businessman, Nigel. You keep on going on about your business, and tell me, Nigel, you're a small business, you do business with a big business. Whose terms do you do that business on? Do you do it on your terms, or you do it on the big business's terms? Now, don't lie to me, Nigel.
Well, either way. If you can't find a big business, if you find a big business that wants to... No, if a big business wants to bully you down, you tell them to go to hell and you find other business.
Every business out there will know what I'm talking about. I've been in that position. You don't have the power, because they want your business for sure, but they don't need it. That's the difference. And you're going on about Britain's right to drive through now in the world. All these countries are developing, Nigel. Go back 100 years, you had Britain, you had America, you had a few other major drivers, but very, very few. Therefore, we could rule the roost, as you say, with this Anglo-Saxon alliance.
I'm not asking us to rule the roost, Phil.
Nigel.
I'm not asking us to dominate them. I'm asking it to have a partnership of equals, and there's absolutely no reason.
The point is, you're not going to be equals, Nigel.
Phil, can you not see this European Union model is not only undemocratic, anti-democratic, but that it's actually falling to pieces? It doesn't work.
Well, let's take the democratic issue. You, in this country, UKIP in 2015 polled over 4 million votes and couldn't actually get one actual MP that was voted through the election, truly. Now, you tell me how democratic that is, and that's our system. I'm fed up with hearing how brilliant our system is. I've lived and worked in 3 different European countries. And believe you me, Nigel, they all work very well, and you meet the same person in those countries very well. If you were born in Germany, you'd be doing exactly the same job you are now.
But Phil, hang on. Isn't the point here that the people with the sole right to propose European law are a bunch of unelected old men in Brussels? There's something wrong with that, isn't there?
Look, They have to swear allegiance to the European
To the
ideal.
Union.
They aren't acting for their own countries, for their own priorities. That's what the whole point of this is.
Yeah.
And as I said, if you Brexiteers can't see what is coming...
No, we can't. We can't. So should Mrs May stick... So what you're really saying is you want Mrs May to reverse Chequers and put us back into the EU. Is that what you're saying?
I totally do. Absolutely.
All right. Well, she could do it, Phil. She could do it, but it would be electoral suicide. Phil, you represent about 20% of voters in this country. About 20% don't want to leave. I tell you what, it's a figure that is actually going down, not up. Charlie is calling from Cardiff in South Wales. Charlie, what should she do in this dilemma? I mean, she's got a real dilemma here, hasn't she?
Yeah, good morning, Nigel.
Good morning to you.
I think I'm coming round to the view that we should chuck Chequers. But a quick comment on your calling the European Union... Sorry.
Yes, right.
I got Theresa May's problem. Calling the EU undemocratic when we use first-past-the-post system, which you... recognise is so totally undemocratic.
No. Charlie, we could reform our own system. The point about the European system is they want to make sure the voter can never actually interfere too much.
Yeah, I mean, I felt sort of at the referendum having a choice between two unacceptables. I didn't like the way Europe is run. I don't like the way Britain is run. And I had to choose between the lesser of two undesirables.
No. So Charlie, you're coming to the view that she chucks Chequers. What politically then should she do?
Right.
She's
Remainer,
got until Wednesday to make her mind up.
Sorry, right. As a Remainer, I think a soft Brexit like Chequers would be better for the country financially. But I can see a problem with it, and it's this. If we come out with a soft Brexit, and things go wrong, nobody will take blame for it. The Remainers will say, well, that's your fault to the Leavers for taking us out. The Leavers will say, no, it's your fault, you softened it, we didn't have a proper Brexit. So I think, although I can't see it actually happening, is that May should go back to the country for clarification. At the last referendum, there was talk about you don't need to worry, it's not going to be too bad. You can come out with a Norway option, or we could have a Canada option or a Switzerland option. It was muddled. I think she should go back to the country and just say, right, it's a straight choice between come out without a deal, as a proper Brexit as the Brexiters want, or stay in. If we go for come out, and I can see no harm in having a referendum if only 20% want to stay in, it would clear the air, but the most important thing I think is it would end this disunited kingdom that we have, because at the moment you've got half the people one
Charlie,
and half the other.
I promise you one thing. If we vote to leave again by a much bigger margin, the globalists will never stop in their effort to get us to rejoin. Charlie, thank you very much indeed. And Charlie there, going very much for a second referendum. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC, and it's now 10:16.
This is LBC. Global's Make Some Noise. For those who don't get heard on LBC.
Global's Make Some Noise Day returns on Friday the 5th of October. LBC's charity, making a big difference to its small projects and changing young lives right across the UK. We've got lots of ways you can be involved and win some great prizes, including a holiday to Florida, a brand new car, and a shopping trip to New York. Global's Make Some Noise. To find out more, go to lbc.co.uk.
Exclusively in The Telegraph, read all about what's got everyone talking. Boris Johnson's plan for Brexit. The former Foreign Secretary writes exclusively for The Telegraph, revealing his plan for how Britain could move towards a deal following Chequers. Boris's plan for Brexit, exclusive to The Telegraph. Read it now at telegraph.co.uk/Boris. The Telegraph. Words are powerful. Choose them well.
Calling all hard-working minicab drivers. Are you earning between £1,000 and £1,600 per week? No? Well, you could be, with Greyhound Car's 18% commission rate. As part of a pooling group of 45 minicab companies in London, we have high demand and are now offering 18% commission deals for new drivers. We allocate each job within 5 seconds to the nearest available driver, so you spend less time travelling to jobs and more time earning money. Apply today at greyhoundcars.co.uk.
Is your money working as hard as you do? Think about it. While you're grafting away, is your money working too? No? Then it's time to Wealthify. Wealthify is the smart, easy way to start investing. Just say how you want to invest. Cautious, adventurous, somewhere in between? And let Wealthify do the rest. Then keep track of your money on the app. Easy. Isn't it time for you to Wealthify? Download the app or visit wealthify.com. With investing, capital is at risk and you could get back less than you put in.
You know your disco from your calypso, from your... But do you know your pension options? PensionWise is a service set up by the government to provide free, impartial guidance about your pension pot. If you're over 50, call 0800 144 8944 to book your free telephone or face-to-face appointment. PensionWise, get to know your options.
The Furniture Village sale has everything to complete your home in time for Christmas. Impress guests with extending dining sets and comfortable sofa beds. And with a huge range of sofas, beds, dining tables, and all our famous brands, there's only one place to go to complete your home in one. The Furniture Village sale, in-store and online now.
Dieselgate. The deadline for our lawyers at SPG Law to file your VW, Audi, Skoda or Seat emissions claims is October 26, 2018. Go to claimagainstVW.com to learn more. No win, no fee. It's that easy with SPG Law. That's claimagainstVW.com before October 26th.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
It's the Tory Party conference here in Birmingham. From what I've seen of it so far, it is disarray, disorganisation, chaos and a big security lapse. It's hardly good after the shambles that last year was. And joining me here is Theo Usherwood, LBC's political editor. Theo, good morning.
Very good morning to you, Nigel.
Not exactly off to a sort of a start with a spring in their step, are they?
No, we've already had a similar moment to what happened last year when the lettering fell off the stage behind Theresa May with that security breach. The Conservative Party app publishing the details, or for public view, I should say, the details of cabinet ministers, their phone numbers, their email addresses. That was spotted and dealt with, but that reflected badly on the party chairman, Brandon Lewis. Members already very unhappy with the way the Tory party are going into this conference. Lots of talk this morning about Boris Johnson's interview in the Sunday Times and his idea for a bridge to Ireland. Not all of most of the comments have been pretty derogatory about the former Foreign Secretary's idea. David Davis, the former Brexit Secretary, leading the charge in the television studios this morning.
You take what he said this morning in the papers. He wants to cancel HS2 and spend it on a bridge to Northern Ireland. Well, I don't want to do that. I think one of the blights of British politics is politicians having fantastic ideas that cost a fortune and don't do much good, and that will be one of them. If you're going to use the money, use it for broadband or something else. On housing, he's right. The issue is there, but his answer's wrong. We need to completely rewrite the housing policy and so on. So, Boris is a great mate of mine. We have a very knockabout friendship, but quite a lot of his ideas, I think, are good headlines, not necessarily good policies.
That was David Davis there. Mr. Davis, Nigel, was also asked if there was a leadership challenge, a vote triggering a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister, how he would vote. And he said he would actually vote for Theresa May to remain in number 10. And therein lies the problem for the Conservatives. The fundamental problem for the Conservatives is that they may not like the Chequers plan. They may not like Theresa May, but they don't have an alternative. Theresa May was being interviewed by the BBC this morning and asked whether she would now ditch Chequers, whether she would abandon that project and go a different route, but she's staying the course.
In the Chequers plan, which actually delivers on the frictionless trade, which businesses such as those you've cited have raised as one of their issues. So it protects jobs, protects livelihoods here in the United Kingdom. It also delivers on the issue of the border.
You don't have to go for the worst option, do you?
You
don't have to go for WTO rules.
What we're doing at the moment, Andrew, is we're in the final straits of this negotiation. Now, I always said it was going to be tough, and it was always going to get toughest towards the end of the negotiation. But we're continuing to focus on getting a good deal for the UK. Now, that's about understanding where the EU has concerns with the proposals we've put before them. It's about understanding what their counter-proposals might be. But what drives me, what drives the government, is the national interest. That's why I'm saying to everybody in politics today, let's focus on the national interest. Okay. Let's focus on ensuring that we're all working to get the really good deal that this country deserves.
Those immortal 3 words from the 2017 election campaign spring to mind. Nothing has changed, and many Brexiteers within the party will just be banging their heads against tables, doors, walls at that statement from the Prime Minister. It is going to be a very long 4 days for Eurosceptics within the party, hoping that Theresa May might now try and find a different course of action to actually deliver what they think is the Brexit that they voted for 2 years ago, 2 and a bit years ago. Theresa May had the toughest time actually in that interview when she was quizzed about by Andrew Marr about the Windrush scandal and whether she would apologise for the so-called hostile environment that led to the scandal.
If you look at what has happened to the Windrush generation, actually there are people who found themselves in some difficulty without documents before we came into government. But let me just look at what the policy...
The families are watching. They want to know if you're actually going to apologise for the policy.
Well, I just want to explain the policy to you, Andrew. The point of the policy was to ensure that those people who were here in the United Kingdom illegally were identified and that appropriate action was taken. That's what went wrong
that's why you
in
did
Windrush.
The policy, but this policy went, as we have just demonstrated, catastrophically wrong. I'm asking you again, you were Home Secretary during most of this period. It was in effect your policy, Theresa May's policy. The Council for the Welfare of Immigrants say that this lady died after a long period of terrible stress. As a result of Theresa May's Immigration Act, the buck stops with the Prime Minister. Will you apologise for the policy?
The purpose of the policy, it was to ensure, and we maintain a compliant environment policy, the purpose of the policy is to ensure that those people who are here illegally are identified and appropriate action is taken. I apologise for the fact that some people who should not have been caught up in that were caught up in that, with, in some cases, as we've just seen, tragic results.
Theresa May, they're refusing to apologise for the immigration policy which was set, well, actually it was set under Labour originally, but she oversaw as Home Secretary. Nigel.
Yeah, no, Theo, thank you. Enjoy the next few days. It's not going to be without drama, I'm sure. And I know one of the protests on the street today will be about her handling of Windrush. Theo, thank you for that. Well, interesting, isn't it? Yes, the Boris Bridge to Ireland. Boris has also in the past talked about a bridge to France. And David Davis being very critical there, saying, look, you know, the sort of basically it's a vanity project. Politicians love big projects that cost tens of billions. And I wonder whether people will start talking more about David Davis potentially as a compromise leader candidate. And Theo saying that from everything Mrs May has done thus far, being interviewed by Andrew Marr and elsewhere, she's indicating she won't change. But I'm asking, what if she did change? Would that be a sign of strength or of weakness? Sue is a new caller from Guildford. Good morning, Sue.
Good morning. How are you, Nigel?
I'm well, and I'm in Birmingham, which is a very strange experience during Tory party conference. I mean, it really is. But I wonder, I mean, probably she won't change course. And
no, I don't suppose she will.
And she'll probably take us to some huge crisis between now and Christmas, is my guess.
Right. Now, I think she should chuck checkers, stop negotiating, and come out without a deal. I know that might sound drastic, but I truly believe that after a couple of days, once the EU has come round from the shock of us having the gall to stand up to them, they will come running back to do a deal, and we will have the upper hand, which is something we have never had during these negotiations.
So get them running after us, Sue, that's what you're saying,
and
rather than us running after them. Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, Sue, for me, the moment in all of this was December the 8th, when the Prime Minister left Downing Street at 4:15 in the morning to fly to meet the unelected Monsieur Barnier, because Barnier had given her a deadline. And that showed you, didn't it, who the bosses were?
What we should have done right from the start is when we issued Article 50 is also issued a list of what we wanted out of the our resignation and coming out of the EU, and they would have said, oh, no. And then we should have said, right, bye, and to 2 years we've had now of and we haven't got any further. And I think we should have done it right from the start, and by now we would have been out and this country would have been on the road to glory.
Well, it's not going to happen with her as leader, Sue, but I thank you for your suggestion, and you're not alone in thinking that. A significant number, maybe 20+%, when people are given all the options in polls. Double the number who support the Chequers plan would support Sue's idea of just saying, do you know what? Enough is enough is enough. I do really seriously wonder why this Prime Minister is so stuck with that plan. I've got time for one more quick caller before the break. The next caller is David. David, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel.
You're from Coventry, just down the road.
I am, yes. Very quickly, there's three things I'd like to say. One, the people of this country did not vote in the 70s to be ruled and bossed around by Europe. We joined as a partner in Europe for trade. That's one. Okay. Two, the politicians had their vote the same as every citizen in this country, and the vote went for Brexit. Now they're trying to arrange another vote from within the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Sorry, but that isn't democracy. That's tyranny. And three, your idea of a Canada deal, to me, sounds great. But like the last lady, I would turn around and say, as I would say to the turkey, get stuffed. Because the thing is, they need us as much as we need them. There's things they get from us they can't get elsewhere. Europe is a morass, and it's just got to be sorted out. The situation is going to get worse.
But will she shift, David? But, David, will she shift, or is she going to stick to this plan come hell or high water?
I'm afraid she's a rabbit in a car's headlights. She doesn't know which way to jump. I think, personally, we ought to get a Winston Churchill puffing his cigar in there saying, look, if you don't like it, forget it.
Oh, no. Let me assure you that the PC Brigade, they might not like Brexit, but they hate cigar smoking even more. David from Coventry, I thank you for your view. It is now time for the news. It's 11:30 with Lisa Aziz.
Theresa May's defended her Brexit plans as being ambitious for Britain in the face of more heavy criticism from her former Foreign Secretary. As Conservatives gather for their party's conference in Birmingham, Boris Johnson's described part of the Chequers blueprint as deranged and preposterous. More than 830 people are now known to have died in Indonesia's earthquake and tsunami disaster on the island of Sulawesi. The country's president is visiting the scene today as rescuers continue to search for victims trapped in the rubble of collapsed buildings. A 28-year-old man's been charged with murder after two women were stabbed to death at a house in Kent. A man in his 70s was also found seriously injured after police were called to Hadlow near Tonbridge yesterday morning. LBC weather, sunny spells, showers and strong winds in Scotland spreading into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the north of England today. Drier though elsewhere, a high of 15 degrees.
This is LBC.
I start with an O. I end with a Y. I'm the second biggest preventable cause of cancer. What am I? The answer at the end of this ad break.
Rollo, if I let you off this lead, promise not to run into the angry farmer's field. I'm not going after you again. Be good.
Rollo! Nobody likes chasing things. Xero online accounting software works for you and automatically sends invoice reminders, so you'll have less chasing to do and more free time. Rollo! Come back! Try the award-winning Xero, free for 30 days. Ask your accountant or visit xero.com.
Is your money working as hard as you do? Think about it. While you're grafting away, is your money working too? No? Then it's time to Wealthify. Wealthify is the smart, easy way to start investing. Just say how you want to invest. Cautious, adventurous, somewhere in between? And let Wealthify do the rest. Then keep track of your money on the app. Easy. Isn't it time for you to Wealthify? Download the app or visit wealthify.com. With investing, capital is at risk and you could get back less than you put in.
It's Pet Week in the middle of Lidl. Get a dog harness for $8.99, a cat cave bed only $7.99, and a selection of pet treats and toys from just 49p. You'd be barking to miss out. From Thursday the 27th of September, Lidl. Big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, selected stores, excludes NI.
How to get your car serviced at a national chain you can depend on without paying main dealer prices.
Simple. Bring it to QuickFit. We've got over 500 service centres across the UK and there's slots available to book right now. So head down to your local QuickFit today or visit quickfit.com to book online and drive away happy.
Mouth Ulcer Diaries, Chapter 1, The Peril of Lady Scarlet.
Oh gosh, this mouth ulcer pain is just the worst!
Luckily, Bongella's on hand to offer some assistance. 3 minutes later.
Oh, thank you, Bongella. You're my hero.
Until the next adventure, Bongella, fight mouth ulcers in 3 minutes. Always read the label.
Block management. 2 very simple words. But what do they actually mean? Well, there's budget approval for starters, then service charge invoices, health and safety paperwork, cleaning, gardening, maintenance, inspections, contracts, insurance, emergency call-outs, and a whole lot more besides.
So for complete block management solutions, just remember 3 simple letters, ABC. ABC Estates will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry. See abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
You're on the touchline, freezing. And as your little girl glides across the pitch and scores in the top corner, you think, I can't feel my toes. You take out your phone, tap the Hive app and adjust the smart thermostat to make sure it's nice and cosy when you get home.
Join over 1 million people using Hive products and you could save up to £130 per year on your heating bill. Search Hive to discover more. Hive. Let's get living. Hive services require broadband. Terms apply.
Did you guess what the biggest preventable cause of cancer is after smoking? The answer is obesity. Search Cancer Research UK Obesity for the facts.
Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
If Mrs May chucks checkers, if she does it in her Wednesday speech, people say she won't, but if she does, would that be a sign of weakness or strength? I think it would show that she'd woken up and smelt the coffee. She'd realised this plan isn't supported by anybody, isn't probably going to get through the House of Commons, and she'd build a lot of support in the country. But before we get back to that, the Ryder Cup is underway. It's the last day of it. It used to be, of course, the Americans against the United Kingdom and Ireland, but frankly, we weren't really good enough. Also, there was a bloke called Sevi Ballesteros out there who was really, really exciting for the crowds. So it became Europe, and it's now Europe against America. Not the European Union against America, because, you know, you can play if you're Norwegian, you can play if you're Swiss, and with Brexit, Britain will be able to play. It's a great sporting event. Europe are winning 10-6. Big lead. Tommy Fleetwood and the Open champion Francesco Molinari, who are now known as Mollywood, have won the first 4 games they played together. It's the singles today. I love the Ryder Cup. I like watching golf. I enjoy it. It's terrific. I'm very happy to support Team Europe. I just wish it hadn't been politicised with the European Union flag, and I'm sure I'm not alone when I see those shots with the European flag. Back to other European problems. Alan is a new caller from Kidderminster. Alan, if she changes course, would she be stronger?
No, I don't think so, Nigel. For the simple reason is she's deluding herself anyway.
Right.
You know, I thought she was quite an honest person. They all make out she's an honest person, but I don't think she is, because she won't answer the question, is she a leaver or a remainer?
Well, yes, I mean, you're right, because, I mean, Ian Dale on LBC asked her how would she vote if there was a referendum now. She just point-blank refused to answer it. Jeremy Paxman asked her 4 times, I think.
Exactly.
Did she now believe in Brexit? She wouldn't answer it. So I think we know where she stands, don't we?
Oh, totally. And there's one guy, is the only fellow for me who could get us out of this menu is Rees-Mogg.
Right.
And that's my honest opinion. I watched him on Question Time on Thursday.
Yes.
And the guy is so honest. You can tell he's an honest person. You know, he's not a rude person. When the people interrupt him, he'll back away and let them have their say, and then he comes back in. And he actually means what he says. I'm sure of it.
Alan, I do not doubt for a moment that Jacob sincerely believes in the things that he says, and is a very long way away from being the classic career politician that probably, Alan, people like you and I have criticised so much over the last few years. But do you think she will change course, Alan? Clearly you don't.
No, she won't. She won't. I mean, the thing is that, as I say, she's so deluded. And I think she's realised now she's dug a hole that deep that she can't get out of it.
So she'll go down with the ship, Alan, if necessary.
Totally.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Thank you very much indeed. Rob says, no matter what the Tories come back with, Labour will vote against. Well, Rob, that's pretty clear, isn't it? We saw that from the conference. The Tories will vote against it. And it could be, that there is no deal that the House of Commons will unite around. That could be the case. We could be headed for an early election. We could be headed, who knows, for a suspension of Article 50, another referendum. Who knows what will happen? Who knows what will happen? What I feel very strongly is that Mrs May changing tack for a Canada or WTO-style deal would get the support of the country behind her, which, even if the numbers were tough in Parliament, at some point the country would be the great card she'd have up her sleeve. Roger thinks Boris cannot be PM. He's too comedic. Theresa May is the only option available. Well, Roger, there are other options. And the fact that Boris is comedic doesn't necessarily rule him out. After all, this guy has been the Mayor of London. He's been the Foreign Secretary. Brandon thinks that May's finished if she carries on with this. It'll never get past a Commons vote. She's just clinging on to her job. Well, I have to say, I find it very difficult to believe she's sticking with a plan that only 10% of the country thinks is a good idea. Herbie is a regular caller from Harrow. Hi, Herbie.
Good morning there, Nigel.
Good morning.
Well, you can't blame Theresa May for everything. I think you've got to look at her advisors who are advising her on all this. Bearing in mind she just awarded him a £30,000 bonus. What for, I do not know. I'd like to earn £30,000 for the mistakes he's making on her.
Is this Ollie Robbins you're referring to?
Yeah, I certainly am.
Well,
yes,
OK, Herbie. OK, Herbie, let me turn it back the other way on you, right? How's it Ollie Robbins' fault? I mean, Mrs Thatcher once said, advisors advise, ministers decide. And isn't the problem here that Theresa May, either not knowing her own mind or basically being a Remainer, has chosen to listen to that side of the argument? I think the fault of Chequers lies far more with her than it does with the civil service.
Well, I blame all the parties, to be honest, because I don't think they've come together and discussed it and debated it realistically with the problems that they could face with such a deal as she's come up with. So you can blame both her advisors and the civil servants, which I think are keeping their own jobs. And now that we've got another army of 7,000 being employed to sort out Brexit, what a joke. You know, where's this money coming from? It's even more money, wasted money. 7,000.
Well, let's hope they make
God help us, Nigel.
Let's hope they make a good job of it, Herbie, but clearly you're not confident that they will. Thank you, Herbie. Dave is a new caller from Woking. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Nigel. How are you?
I am well, although I'm watching on with incredulity as this woman sticks to this ridiculous Chequers proposal.
Well, a friend of mine said after we had the referendum vote, I said to him, well, we're leaving. And he said, they'll never let us leave. And I said, well, they've got to. You know, everyone knows what the position is. We then waited 9 months for them to trigger Article 50.
Yep.
And he said to me, they're planning their strategy there. And afterwards, all of a sudden, we've got a soft Brexit, a hard Brexit, and something in between. So they actually invented two lots of Brexit, really. And, well, this is what we're having now. And you've got to admit they're very clever, Nigel, aren't they?
Well, there's certainly a lot of very big money and a lot of very big brains on the other side of the argument to me who, in their own devious way, are trying to change the language around Brexit and will do their best to frustrate the result. But, Dave, the point is this. You know, however hard they try, and they've succeeded in the case of Denmark and Ireland to make people vote again and get the result they want. But in the end, Dave, if we are resolute on this, we will in the end win.
Well, I certainly hope so, because there's the old theory that, you know, the country is run by money people, for money people, and this kind of almost confirms that, doesn't it?
Well, if you go back, if you go back through history, Dave, you know, slavery was run by the moneyed people. Slavery was had the support of the establishment. In the end, it was overcome, wasn't it? It was overcome. The Corn Laws, which meant that landowners did well and the poor starved, after a long campaign, that was overturned. If there is strong resolve in a campaign and it doesn't buckle and it doesn't weaken, in the end, we can win.
Well, I certainly hope so, Nigel, and I'm right behind you.
Right, well, we're going to keep battling away, and we are going to win. Thank you. I'm going to go to JT, who's a new caller from Japan. What's the name of your city, JT?
I'm in the area just outside of Tokyo.
Just outside Tokyo.
And it's a pleasure to talk with you, Nigel.
Pleasure to talk with you. So, viewing this from afar, what do you think? What do you think our Prime Minister ought to do?
Well, I think it's obvious that she needs to toss out the whole Chequers thing. The European Union with Brexit is playing a very interesting game of sort of like a strategic chess game to try and bully Britain into, say, a state of Brexhaustion. But while the European Union is playing clever chess, the United Kingdom seems to be playing checkers, and it's a very different game. And I think that she should chuck it. It doesn't make her weak, it would make her stronger, because it would, I think, reinforce people's opinion that the Prime Minister actually has a clue of what's going on. The European Union won't accept it, Labour won't accept it, and probably the Tories will not find a way to accept it. So chuck it out, show some strength, and get on with the next bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. It would show strength, not weakness. But hey, but the powers on the other side. I haven't done a lot of Japanese media, JT, but I do remember after Brexit, 2 or 3 Japanese newspapers, and I sort of spoke to them collectively, and they, of course, went with the globalist agenda. Oh, my goodness me, this is a complete disaster. You voted for Brexit. How are you going to survive? And I said to them, well, why don't you, Japan, as a little offshore island, join up with the bigger mainland of China and have your laws and rules and regulations set there? And when I said that, I think they understood what I meant.
Yes, indeed.
Because nobody would suggest, because Japan's a tiny, what are you, 120 million these days, something like that?
122, 123.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, compared to China, what's China, 1.4 billion, is it?
It's around there, yes.
I mean, you're a little offshore island. How on earth do you survive?
Yes, we make our own laws.
Oh, really?
We control our own borders.
Goodness me.
Yes, and we trade with other nations.
Good Lord. I didn't think it was possible. Yes. JT, I thank you so much for your call. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's 11:45.
Little Red Riding Hood has been trying to sell her grandma's home for some time now, but the estate agent's shiny, sharp teeth have left her with sweat on her brow.
Trust me, darling, I just want what's best for you, hence the added fees.
However, she spoke to the friendly team at Property Rescue, who cut out the middleman and guaranteed a sale in as little as 48 hours with no fees whatsoever. Fast forward to living happily ever after. Visit propertyrescue.co.uk. Property Rescue. Fast forward to sold.
Smeary windows, grimy glass. Clean it with B&Q. The new Karcher Anniversary Edition window vac is just £65. It's perfect for getting your windows streak-free, and click and collect makes your job even easier. So for brilliant cleaning products at everyday low prices, you can do it when you B&Q it.
Do you take credit cards, she says?
Yeah.
Like I've got a card machine in my toolbox?
No one pays cash these days. I use a PayPal Here card reader. Fits in my pocket. I take cards, even contactless. With no monthly fees, job done.
Get paid by card or contactless wherever you do business with the PayPal Here card reader. Now with £20 off until November the 30th. Search PayPal Here card reader.
Right, you're around then.
Sorry, pal, not carrying cash.
Subject to application approval, terms and transaction fees apply.
Have you ever told yourself a little white lie about how much alcohol you drink? It's easy to kid ourselves our jeans are tight because they've shrunk in the wash. But the truth is, drinking alcohol most nights can be bad for your health. I mean, did you know a large glass of wine is like eating a whole bar of chocolate? Drinking less by having more drink-free days is an easy way to cut calories. Remember, there's only one you, so be more drink-aware. See how at drinkfreedays.co.uk.
Did you know that Godzilla is an official citizen of Japan? Or that Singaporeans are the fastest walkers on the planet? and that in Hong Kong, you can get married at McDonald's. But here's the most amazing thing to know. You can discover Asia from just £379 return with Lufthansa's attractive fares. Book by October 2nd for travel starting from October 23rd. For more offers and full terms and conditions, visit lufthansa.com or speak to your travel agency.
Say yes to the world. Lufthansa.
Exclusively in The Telegraph, read all about what's got everyone talking. Boris Johnson's plan for Brexit. The former Foreign Secretary writes exclusively for The Telegraph, revealing his plan for how Britain could move towards a deal following Chequers. Boris's plan for Brexit. Exclusive to The Telegraph. Read it now at telegraph.co.uk/Boris. The Telegraph. Words are powerful. Choose them well.
Britain has many noble traditions, the changing of the guard, tea drinking and bog snorkelling. But the tradition that embodies our very essence is undoubtedly the Great British Queue. However, our national pastime is under threat from the fiendishly simple SO app, which will do away with queuing for fuel altogether, meaning one can pay for fuel from the comfort of one's own motor vehicle. One can also collect club card points whilst doing so, as if the end of queuing wasn't enough.
The new SO app. Say cheerio to queuing, Britain. For more information, visit so.co.uk. SO app available at participating SO sites only for fuel purchases under £100.
To some, being a hero is wearing a funny mask or pulling your underpants over your trousers. But there is a better way. By going sober this October for Macmillan Cancer Support, you'll be transformed into a sober hero, proudly saying no to the booze and yes to raising money for people with cancer. Let's join together. You, me, my next door neighbour Jeff, all sober heroes, and no silly underpants, except maybe Jeff. Feel heroic for 31 days. Sign up today at gosober.org.uk.
The Nigel Farage Show. Text 84850.
So Theresa May's Chequers plan is seen by Brussels to be cherry-picking. It's seen by Eurosceptics to be such a betrayal that it's led to the resignation of the Brexit Secretary and the Foreign Secretary. It only has 10% support out there in the country, and yet she's been sticking with it, and we're told she probably, in her big speech to the Tory party conference here in Birmingham on Wednesday, is going to stick with the plan. I mean, it strikes me as being absolutely bonkers. Tina thinks the plan is what the EU have told her to stand by. She's an EU pawn. Well, I'm not sure it's quite as simple as that. Some suggesting here that Ian Duncan Smith should run for leader again. At least we have a Brexiteer. I suspect Ian, brilliant though he was in the Brexit campaign, I can't see him wanting to go back to being Tory leader again. He had a pretty miserable time. Ralph thinks if we go for a general election, the country will revolt. But how, Ralph? How will they revolt? I don't know. Why is she sticking with Chequers? Wouldn't she be stronger, more sensible, and command support in the country from Brexit voters from all parties by going for a different plan, a Canada or WTO plan? Len is a new caller from Ipswich. Good morning, Len.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Farage. I'm talking to my fellow Brexiteers in Ipswich here, and there's nobody has changed his mind. Nobody wants to go over to the Remain side. But my opinion is I'm off, as a Brexiteer, I would be all for a second referendum, provided, of course, that the Remainers would be prepared to wait 30 years like us. So let's have it in 2046.
Yeah, sounds about right, Len. I'm happy with that. Or maybe we could be a bit more generous and say 2036, perhaps. But
I'd just like to say that if you as a country are or a party want to hand the governance of the country over to a foreign power, which is what we did with Maastricht, it should automatically trigger a plebiscite, surely, because, I mean, we fought wars to maintain our independence, and the people should be asked, do you want to be governed by a foreign power? That's what we did, but we weren't given the chance at the time of Maastricht, 1987. We had to wait all this time.
And Len, you know, if you go right back to the 75 referendum, after we've been taken in without a referendum, it's pretty clear, you know, that what people were being told, and they're being told by the party leaders, Wilson, Thorpe, Thatcher, even Thatcher was on that side of the argument, this is just about trade, don't worry your little head. So the whole thing's been a lie to me, Len, right from the very start. Len, I thank you. Pat thinks on Facebook, the British people don't like being betrayed. This will be Theresa May's last conference before the party chucker. I think it may well be, Pat, her last party conference, although she has proved to be a remarkable survivor. I think there's not much doubt about that. Mark is another new caller from the Wirral. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. I'm a Conservative Party member.
Yes.
And I voted this week in the Conservative home poll that proved that 8 out of 10 who voted, this is party members who voted, said that we do not want Theresa May. We do not want Chequers, as another previous poll indicated. We do not want her or Chequers. And in my mind, Philip Hammond can go because he is the puppet master behind this.
But Mark, you're a Conservative Party member, okay?
Yeah.
And there are, well, we don't quite know, but let's say there's 120,000 of you, yeah?
Yeah.
It's a reasonable number.
Yeah.
Don't blame Philip Hammond, because you know he's a Remainer. He's on the other side. Where are your MPs actually standing up and fighting to get rid of Chequers and or Mrs May? Where are they?
Okay, well, you've probably seen on Twitter a campaign called Stand Up for Brexit, and there are currently probably about 25, if not 30, Tory MPs who are involved with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sharing a platform with a couple this afternoon. I'm sharing a platform this afternoon with Peter Bone and with Andrea Jenkin and with Graham Stringer from Labour, I'm pleased to say as well. But there are some. But the vast majority, Mark, of Tory MPs are keeping their heads down, not committing either way and waiting to see what happens because they're careerists, Mark.
Well, I mean, Aaron Banks is quite right with his blue wave and the recent adverts that he's actually putting out, which Anna Soubry has had a hissy fit about.
That was just to remind listeners that Aaron Banks was suggesting that people join the Conservative Party and sort of take it over from the inside, basically.
Well, no, more than that. In the last day or two, he has actually started advertising in the Broxtowe constituency.
Yes.
Giving Anna Soubry's record and stating that a majority in Broxtowe actually campaigned and won for Brexit, and that she is standing against it. So she is actually standing against her own constituents.
Okay. And are you, Mark, are you confident that this party to which you pay your subscription is going to sort Brexit out properly?
No, I'm not. I mean, to be honest, I am so unhappy with the party at the moment. I would be happy to have a Labour government and Jeremy Corbyn, and I would be happy to have an opportunity of 2 years, and I would give it, in fact, no more than 1 year for Labour to make a total mess, but so that we in the Tory party can clean our clock, get them all out, and start again.
Well, Mark, I don't know. I think maybe the best thing could be if the Tory party splits, because clearly it's divided in a way that it never ever has been. Mark, I thank you very much indeed for your call. Russell says, so if no deal equals immediate Brexit and a deal equals a 21-month transition, then I vote for no deal. Russell, I haven't got a problem with no deal. No deal, no problem. But would the House of Commons, would our political establishment allow a no deal to happen? I have my doubts. They'd fight very, very hard against it. Very, very hard indeed. David is calling from Mill Hill. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Nigel. First of all, I would like to say, why is no one talking about the £10 billion a year we are going to save?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Between that and cutting down overseas aid would be awash with money. We could compensate any company that's having a problem in the short term with us leaving immediately. I think we should...
And David, if we left immediately, our goods would get charged by them $5 or $6 billion a year, and we'd be charging them $12 or $13 billion a year. So short term, money wouldn't be a problem. I agree.
I don't think even in the long term. And I don't believe that her best is our best. Because she's a Brexiteer. She wants to stay in. So how could she make a deal that's in her interest? Her interest will be to stay in, almost, because she never, ever voted to leave.
No, that's absolutely true.
And also, she's got some, not Muppet, I don't know what his name is, negotiating, and he's not even a person that's in favour of Brexit. How can you possibly appoint someone like that? It's gross incompetence.
So have the Tory party, have they either got the will, or is there time, given the negotiations, to get rid of her, David?
I really don't know, Nigel, but all I know is something's got to give. And maybe what will happen out of this is the EU will cave in and say, right, we need your £1 billion a year, so we will cave in and we will allow certain of cherry picking. I don't know, but they're gonna at some stage it's going to have to happen, isn't it? She's going to have to leave the meeting, and they'll come chasing after her.
Yeah, I think there'll be a deal, is my view. Whether it's a deal that gets accepted in the House of Commons, whether it's a deal that's acceptable to Leave voters remains to be seen. David, I thank you very much indeed for your call. I thank everybody this morning for their calls. Lots of passion. It's going to be a remarkable few days here in Birmingham. I'm just here for today. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I've got to go to Strasbourg to see that side of it. I'll be back on air at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, it's Ian Payne. But up next with you, it's Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Nigel. Coming up, Sky News reporter Mark Austin has revealed the agonising moment he told his daughter, if you want to starve yourself to death, just get on with it. Do you know anyone struggling with an eating disorder? How far have we succeeded in destigmatising the conversation? Before that, everybody in Britain would work a 4-day week, but get paid for the full 5 days under radical proposals being explored by the Labour Party's economic team. Would you prefer a 4-day week? But first, Boris Johnson sets out his manifesto today for the Tories to win the next election, arguing that the government should stop trying to copy Jeremy Corbyn if it wants to defeat Labour. Who do you back for PM, Boris Johnson or Theresa May?
On your radio, on your